right, in this video, we're going to talk about 5 simple ways to earn real respect from your team without trying to impress them. Most new managers try to impress their team, and that's exactly when they lose respect. You come in trying to prove yourself, trying to do more, talk more, push harder, but it actually makes your team trust you less. And if you don't fix this early on, that reputation is going to stick. So we're going to talk about how you earn trust, especially as a new manager, and I'm sure lots of people can relate to this. All right, so you've worked with lots of new managers, experienced managers. What is it that helps that new manager become the manager they want to be, become the manager that is trusted and has a good team and a good relationship with their team?
Like your introduction, I think one of the first things to know is don't try too hard to impress, right? It's just too obvious and it backfires, right? I can didn't mean to talk about this, but I can remember years ago, um, we were younger, I was married, my brother-in-law was single and just desperate. He was lonely and
Oh.
he just wanted a date. He just wanted to not be alone all the time. And oh man, he tried so hard. He was so desperate. So he was asking me, what do I do? I said, I don't know. I don't know that I know all the answers. I think I just got super lucky in the person I married. But I can tell you one thing. Desperation is not attractive. It does not attract. It repels. Man, you're just too desperate. So what I talked about with him, and again, this is not dating advice. It's just the principle behind it, right? So I don't know how to give dating advice. I'm not going to pretend to do that. But the one thing I did try to share with him is instead of going out desperately hunting, go out and live a life that has meaning to you. Be involved in things you care about. Interact with people who are involved in things you care about. Maybe then you'll meet someone and they'll see you at your best and not see you hunting them. Because when you hunt something, it tends to run the other way. So don't be too desperate, right? So as a new manager, don't hunt for that approval, right? Don't try to just track people down and make them love you or make them respect you or make them whatever, right? You're not going to make them anything. So that's probably the first thing. So what do you do? There's a number of things I think that are incredibly helpful and love to see. Make comments. What have you seen as a new manager that you thought was helpful? The probably one of the first things is be present, right? Be there, show up and show up on time. I worked with one company, a group of leaders, and we were um, just kind of building their culture as a team. So we met on a regular basis. Every time we met, the CEO and or the COO were probably a good 10, 15 minutes late to the meeting at least, would come in very apologetic. Oh, I'm so sorry. I was on the phone with a big buyer in Dubai, and we have this 300 bazillion dollar deal that I'm working on. And, it has global impact. They're just talking about all the important things they were doing in that, and they had to take care of that. So it made them late for the meeting that, by the way, they were the leaders of. So, or leaders in. That happened about 3 times, and I noticed I'd be there and people start wandering in, and everybody had a story. Oh, I'm so sorry I'm late. Even the youngest professional in the room. Oh, I'm so sorry I'm late. I was doing this and it was so important. I just couldn't get away. And so I got here so okay, well, I might not be the brightest guy in the world, but I recognize a pattern when I see one. So I pulled the CEO aside, asked for just a one-on-one meeting, and I just shared that observation. I noticed that when we first started, you and the COO were consistently late. He said, "I'm really sorry." I said, "Wait, stop. Don't apologize to me. Let me tell you what I'm seeing. You're consistently late. And each time you talked about how important the things were that you were doing that caused you to be late. You were in the middle of some big important thing, which I'm not doubting, but that's the pattern. It happened with both of you. Did you notice that after 3 times of meeting, everybody else shows up late with a really good excuse about the things they were doing and how important they are? If you don't value these meetings and they're not important, let me know. We can just drop them. No, no, they're really important. It's important to build our culture. I said, well, then you probably need to show it. You're right, you're right. I didn't even realize that, didn't see it. It wasn't intentional. And good people, otherwise really good leaders, didn't realize one thing you want to know if you're building a culture. There are really 3 things to building a culture that are important: behaviors, systems, and symbols. Okay, well, systems are hopefully pretty clear, but this was 2 of the 3. That behavior was symbolic of how important they were. And if you wanted to be important, do not show up on time to meetings, have other more important things to do. So to start out with, be present, show up on time. If you want to earn trust, be worthy of trust. And that's what really all this is about. It's about earning trust. So that would be the first thing, would be show up on time. The
All
second,
right.
your work ethic. Now, this one's kind of a tricky one. Are you willing to do the work that is your work to do? Oftentimes, as a new leader, you're moving up from an old role. A lot of times people define themselves by the old work they were doing. That's going to lead to something akin to micromanaging because you're going to be in someone else's space. So understand what your role is and what the work is for you to do. Now, we'll have another video that you can look at it that talks about delegation. And in that, you need to understand how to develop your team and how to delegate to your team so that you're free to do that work, but do that work. So what is the work of your role as a new manager? Are you in touch with people? Are you helping them to develop their careers? Are you helping them? Are you managing performance in an effective way? Are you sharing your understanding of the vision of the company and the mission of the company so that people can be motivated? And you'll see in another video coming up soon about what it means to have accountability and even ownership of the role. That's part of what it means to lead other people.
When I
So
was promoted in the Marine Corps, when I was promoted from sergeant to staff sergeant, this is sort of you're no longer an individual contributor. There's always leadership at every level in the Marine Corps, but there's a distinct break when you're a staff sergeant, right? You're no longer in the trenches. You're no longer carrying the rifles. You're managing. You're managing other people. You're managing programs. You're managing departments. My first sergeant, he was in charge of our battalion, or not, he was in charge of our company. Got all of us staff together, bought us all Marshall Goldsmith's book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There.
love that book.
Was
Awesome.
Yes, great book, but talked a lot about there's a difference now. You don't get to do what you did before. It's not going to be enough. And if you keep doing what you did before, you're going to fail. Even if you had a great work ethic, obviously you did. Obviously you were good at what you did, or you wouldn't have gotten promoted. They don't just hand those out like candy. It's they're pretty strict about that. But you're going to fail if you don't see what your next role is and apply the same work ethic to your new role and understand what that is. It was a really good first sergeant. I liked him. So
Very good. So that's that, being able to do the work of helping other people develop, helping them align with, are you empowering others to be successful? You're a leader now. If you have a good and healthy culture and you're helping to create a good and healthy culture, your success should be measured by the success of your team. That happens by you oftentimes getting out of their way and just letting them do their jobs and then watching to see where is it that they need. We have in the book we've written, Influence on Purpose, um, five principles for leaders to build regenerative cultures. I had to remember the title of my own book, but anyway, that's the title. In the very last chapter, there's a tool to help you assess, what does this person need from me as their leader? Do they need coaching? Do they need training? Do they need resources? Am I managing this individual in the way that they need to be managed right now? And by the way, that's going to change. As they learn and grow and become more competent, your management style needs to change and adapt to what they need now. So staying in touch with people and is the work that you have to do, which kind of leads to three.
Right. Good segue.
Yeah, it just happened that way. Like to say I planned, I did not. Emotional intelligence, right? A lot of times that's staying calm under pressure, but emotional intelligence is also being able to be in tune to the needs of the people around you as a leader. Am I reading this right? Am I having the right conversations at the right time? And am I listening to what's needed? Again, do you need coaching right now? Do you understand the core values? Is there something happening here that's at variance with our core values as a company? Do you get the vision of what success is going to look like? What are we aiming for? And then do you understand our mission and who we serve? Or do I need something else? Do I need time, talent, team, or tools to be more capable? Or am I getting the management that I need? Um, I actually had talking about staying calm under the pressure. Under pressure, I've had a lot of really successful senior leaders learn where they were struggling and will learn where people struggled to follow them. And a lot of times they would come up with, I know what my problem is. I'm just too passionate, right? They would get loud. They would get violent. I worked with one guy. He was a superintendent of a large construction site, and he was big. He was like 6'8", nigh under 300 pounds, ex semi-pro football player, not overweight, just a big, big guy. He would look like get upset. He would pick up a four-drawer filing cabinet and throw it through a wall. Can you imagine picking up a four-drawer? That's heavy stuff, right? Or he'd kick out a
Sounds
door,
productive.
yell and scream and cuss. And his the owner of the company asked me, he said, boy, he's incredibly hardworking, very intelligent, smart. The customers love him. He's just terrifying our people. Can you work with him? And I thought, man, I don't know about that. I'm not sure I want to work with this fella. So we met in a public place. I thought that might be the safest thing for me to do. We met at a restaurant and we had a great conversation. I learned from him that he cared deeply about his family. He had, I think, three little boys and loved his wife dearly. Just thought that she was amazing and he was lucky she married him and just just felt a lot of warm conversation about family as we were getting to know each other. Then, as we kind of moved into the purpose of our meeting, we talked about some of these observations of extreme behavior, if we could call it that. I asked him, I said, okay, so this is happening at work. Has that ever happened at home? Have you ever raised your voice like that, broken out a wall, thrown things, gone into fits of profanity around your family? He was very upset with me. How dare you say I would do that? Why wouldn't I say you would do that? Well, I would never do that at home. I said, so you're telling me that at home, when the stakes are higher, family's important, you've never lost control, but at work, you lose control. It sounds like somewhat frequently, or at least somewhat regularly. And he said, oh, well, that's where you don't understand. I never lose control. I said, what? I never lose control. I said, okay, file cabinet through a wall, kicking out the door. What am I missing here? He said, that's just good theater. I have a $500 million project that I'm in charge of. When the customer comes to me with a problem, I want him to know that I take it seriously and I will do whatever it takes to solve that problem. I said, okay, so you have one set of values at home and another set of values at work. And he said, well, yeah, I guess I do. I said, do you understand where that would make me wonder a little bit about your integrity? Oh man, that was probably as close as I've ever been to death. He almost came over the table. How dare you question my integrity? Whoa, wait a second. Let me explain what that word means, right? Integrity means I have a core set of values that I always live by. right? You don't have a core set of values that you always live by. You're willing to terrorize people at work in a way that you would never do to your little boys. You value them higher. What's going on with that? So we actually made really good progress, became good friends. I didn't die in the process, which I'm grateful for. But he learned that people could not trust him. He was getting the job done, but at a very high cost. He was burning through staff. People were quitting. They had to constantly be looking for new people. Now, that's an extreme case. But I worked with a CEO of a company who what he threw was maybe a stapler, you know, and not a file cabinet. So not quite as extreme by scale, but still loud. Brilliant CEO. Understood the business, the market environment, what was needed. He was actually a pretty decent guy, actually a very decent guy, and people liked him. They just tolerated his behaviors. But when he got feedback, they said, "Yeah, we like him, but this is the thing that holds us back. This is where, I get afraid to tell him things he might not want to hear. So that is going to affect, obviously, his ability to make intelligent decisions because you don't have the intelligence needed to make the decision. The intelligence meaning the data or the information that should have been available for that decision." And he said, "I know what my problem is. I'm just too passionate." No, that's not your problem. You're you're really good at what you do because of your passion for this job and for this company and for success. Your problem is you're disrespectful. That's your problem. Don't lose your passion. Gain respect. Understand how to respect people. Understand how to build people up, not use them up in the process of getting things done. So this idea of emotional intelligence is not new to any of us, I hope. It is incredibly, profoundly important. So that's number 3. That almost leads to number 4, really. Number 4
Well
is,
done.
yeah, thank you. We're on a roll here, aren't we? Number 4 is knowing how to understand, right? Number 4 is you'll hear this in other areas from us. One mouth, two ears, you do the math. Number 4 is knowing how to listen. When you go in to a new role, the first thing you should do is know what questions to ask so that you can learn the environment, learn the individuals. You should not come up with a new strategy for a significant period of time. You should be doing your homework. There's a book, I've used it a number of times with clients. It's called You're in Charge, Now What? Part of that book is gives you 6 questions to ask as a new leader. And let's say if I remember them right, but it's going to be something like, what are 5 things you love about this company? What are 3 things we should change as soon as possible? What are some things that you hope I'll do as your new leader? What are some things you're afraid I might do as your new leader? Love that question. And then what advice do you have for me? An additional question could sound something like, what questions should I have asked, but I didn't think of? Or is there anything you would like to ask me? Or anything I should know that we didn't cover yet, right? Just kind of that open-ended, you've had the conversation, you've been listening, you've built trust just by listening. Then just see if there's anything on their mind that you haven't covered.
I had a client once who's almost exactly this situation. New manager, had been at the company for a little while, new manager of a department, was very nervous, very well intentioned, good guy, but just kind of nervous. He didn't know what he didn't know what to do next, didn't know how to gain trust. I wish we had this video for him. And so we talk about what do you want? Not numbers. I don't want work statistics right now. What do you want for your team? What do you want for your department? What kind of department do you want to be? Do you want to be one that accomplishes things, one that has good relationships together? Let's sketch that out. What do you want more in a relationship level? So we talked about that. Okay. So what do you do next? Well, I should come up with a plan. No, you should talk to people. You should lead with your intentions, right? You've said a lot of times, never let them guess your motives. Tell them this is what you want. Go talk to people and then ask them What does this look like to you? How do you think we can accomplish this? What would you like to change, right? Have lots of meetings, talk to people, walk around, walking while, what is it, managing while walking around, talk to people. We got to the point where almost a year in, finally we sat down, we talked about a change you wanted to make. Someone had kind of a delicate change. Somebody had sort of been not demoted, but laterally moved instead of promoted. It kind of was making it a tense situation. Okay, so how are you going to fix this? That's what he asked me. What do I do next? What do you think? He kind of rolled his eyes. I know, I should ask them. Yes. I think I was kind of annoying, I guess, but he said it worked well, but just
Good.
don't start with what you think you should do. Start with what kind of team you want to have and ask, get feedback.
It's interesting. I was talking with probably one of the most successful CEOs I've ever worked with. Uh, Throughout the and kind of coming toward the end of his professional career, looking forward to the next little while, moving into retirement. And I said, what is one thing you would do differently than you have done? And he said, I would spend even more time listening to people. I would spend more time walking around, visiting people at their jobs and listening to them, just getting to know them as people. I would do that more. What's funny is when I first met with him, I asked him, and this was years earlier, you know, what do you he traveled around the globe to different locations of their company. And I said, what do you do when you go there? He said, we've got great managers. I don't have to teach them how to manage. I don't have to teach them how to lead. I just want to be there to have my finger on the pulse of the culture. I want to know that our culture is the culture it should be. And so that's what I do. What was funny is after that conversation of him saying he wished he would have more time or would have listened more, I mentioned that to one of the people who work for him, and they said, that shocks me. He does that better than anyone I've ever met. So it's something he was very good at. It was probably his secret sauce. And he would have done it even more. He would have probably got even better results, he feels, right? So that ability to listen. And we learn to listen by asking good questions. Know how to ask a question. Know how to reflect if somebody's struggling to speak. Know how to paraphrase what they're saying so you can demonstrate your understanding of it, or at least that you're striving to understand it, and then they can hear whether you got it or not and clarify if you're not on target. If they're not speaking at all, know how to interject just enough to say, I'm guessing you might be concerned about this, or something like that, just enough to prime the pump where they know you're willing to listen to the hard things, right? So knowing how to listen well so that you can be intelligent requires knowing how to ask good questions. Probably if I'm going to add one caveat to all of that is don't be thin-skinned. If people are holding back about telling you something, they're afraid of how you might respond. Be careful how you respond. Don't validate their fears, right? If someone hasn't told me that I, as their leader, have been too autocratic, that I came across as selfish or egotistical or whatever, right? If that's what they're seeing and I don't know it, there's a great example of that. I heard this story. It wasn't my experience. It was another consultant who I was talking with, was working with a company, and they were working very hard to deal with budget problems, overspending, right? We got to tighten up our budget. We got to quit wasting money. And he would go from location to location to location, giving the speech about how we need to be more careful and how we need to stay within our budgets and so on and so forth. And he said he just felt like he was talking to a brick wall. And said finally one time, one guy said from the back of the room, kind of raised his hand and said, I got something I want to bring up. What is that? He said, you know what? It's hard for me to count staples and paper clips and pens when you're building a new office here just so you have a posh place to work when you show up. So I don't see that spending or keeping within our budgets all that important the way I see you spending money. And I asked the guy, how did he handle it? He said it was funny to watch because at first his face got red, his hand came up, he started to lean forward. And then he took a deep breath and he stepped back a bit and he said, tell me more about that. What are you seeing? And the guy said, well, here's what I'm seeing. We're spending, and he gave a large number. We just built this new office and it cost X amount of money. And, many thousand, tens of thousands of dollars, if not more. And you're telling us we gotta, be more careful with how much printer ink we use, you know? And And the guy said, oh, he said, yeah. He said, I could see where that would bother you. Let me explain. That office isn't for me. It's actually for you. We're trying to grow the business, and that's a place for you to meet with clients and potential clients. I'll probably use it when I'm here, but I'm not here I don't need that office. I could be anywhere. So that's really out of the part of our budget that's to help us grow our business. That's a capital expense for marketing. But thank you. I really appreciate. They said it was funny because the meeting became so open, and then people were able to discuss their brainstorm ideas for saving money. So what was really funny was afterwards, this consultant got with his client and said, "Tell me what happened there. That was interesting. Here's what I saw. What happened? What was happening in your head?" He said, "At first, I thought, how dare him? I'm trying to get people in line, and he's challenging my authority. No one will respect me. And so how dare he do this? Right. And he said, but then I thought, I have been talking to a brick wall everywhere I go. This guy is the one guy in the room who's actually on my side. He's the one guy who's an ally because he also is expressing concern for overspending. And they were able to get on the same page, and it made the whole room so much more safe. Right. So that little bit of humility means your questions can be more sincere, right? Right. You're not asking questions to set people up to give you information. You're truly seeking to understand. That's different. The last tip actually builds from that. All of this comes from, so if the first four were the what's, the last one is the how, and maybe even the why. Let's talk about that. So the last one is, you've probably heard this. I remember the first time I heard it, I thought, oh, that's cute. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? Cute little saying. So how true? Even though it's cheesy, it's true. If people can't trust you, you're not going to impress them with how smart, how hardworking, how strategic, how whatever, how good you are at whatever you're supposed to be good at. Couldn't care less if they can't trust you. And they can't trust you if you're not seeing them as individuals and they don't know how much you care. So I think that's probably one of the um, I that's the how, right? That's the conditions. The other is the content of your leadership. I can remember being a very young. I worked at actually worked at a children's home for people with disabilities when I was very young. Um, and I took one of the residents of the group home where I worked to a dental appointment, and he was terrified. And I took the time to sit down with him and calm him and help him get through the dental appointment and end up happy. And that was the job. And the next day or two, I was just walking down the hallway at the main office, and the executive director, in essence the CEO of that organization, stopped me, and I'd been there maybe not even a month. And he stopped me in the hallway and said, "Hey, you're John Baker, right?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I got a call from you from a dentist." I thought, "Oh no, what did I do?" And he said, "We've never gotten a call like that before. I've never had a medical professional call and compliment our staff. He just couldn't say enough about how well you handled that situation. I never thought about it. I don't think I ever talked to the dentist other than, how can I help, maybe." But the fact that he took that time to express his gratitude very specifically, what it was I did that he thought was helpful and why it mattered to him and the organization. I'd run through fire for that guy after that, right? I didn't see him very often. I worked at a different location, but when just taking that time to notice, to show that he was grateful, that he cared about me as a person, that means a lot. So I think there's probably one more person who kind of had to learn that lesson. He was also he was a supervisor of a large group. He kind of had a director level position, really. And he did a 360. And in his 360, there were certain things that came out that he didn't do well, that he might have been that he just wasn't listening well, or he was very good and it was overwhelmingly positive feedback. But there were some negative points. And I said, hey, when we do a 360, here's what we ask people to do. Thank people for the feedback. Ask them, let them know what you've learned from it. Tell them you appreciate knowing what your strengths are and how you plan to use those. Identify the things that it looked like you're not doing well, that are weak areas for you. Ask for some clarity, get some examples, and then talk a little bit about how you want to address this and ask them for feedback along the way so that you can tell you're actually making a difference. Make it safe for them to talk to you as you're going through your own progress. So I talked to him. I said, so have you talked to your staff yet? He said, oh, no. I said, why not? He said, well, because I got these areas of weakness. I said, so why aren't you talking to your team about this? Well, because if I told them about these weaknesses, then they won't respect me. Now, right? Now stop and think about that for a second. How did you learn about those weaknesses in the first place? You got them from a 360 survey. They filled out a survey and said, here's some things you're doing that make it hard, right? So I told him that. I said, so you don't want to talk to them about the weaknesses that they pointed out to you that you have because you don't want them to know about those weaknesses because then they won't respect you. He said, oh, yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? I said, not to me, it doesn't. So we kind of went through this scenario, right? Let's say that you work for someone and you point out to them something they're doing that's making life hard for you. Scenario one, they do nothing about it. They never talk to you about it, and they just pretend it didn't happen. Does your respect for them, now that you've shared that information, go up or down? He said, well, down. I said, right. Okay, scenario two. Same thing happened. You give this feedback to your boss. She comes back to you and says, man, thanks for that feedback. That was a blind spot for me. I didn't even know what was happening. I'm sorry about that. Can you give me some more information so I make sure I have a really good understanding of what's going on there? And you have a good conversation. She says, thanks for that. If I did this, do you think that would be helpful? Yeah, I think it would. All right, I'm going to work on that. I'm going to check in with you every once in a while, but I don't want you to wait for that. If you see me violating what I just promised I would do, please point it out to me. I will be grateful. I don't want you calling me out in public, maybe, but just let me know. I'll be grateful because this is important to me. Does your respect for that person go up or down? He goes, way up. I said, okay. So now, why are you avoiding this? I guess I'm not avoiding it. I'll deal with it. Which he did and made great progress. So what does it mean to be respected, right? It kind of brings us full circle right back to the beginning of the conversation. When he tried to impress them with how good he was and not talk about his weaknesses, the respect was going down. When he actually started addressing those things because he listened to people and made them a part of his progress, just the way he was a part of theirs, respect went way up. So I think those are some of the things that we have to know is be careful of your ego going into a new leadership situation. Don't drink the Kool-Aid of you're the boss now, you got all the answers. Just be a good listener.
About earning trust. Oh, that's the first thing you said was it's earning trust. And earning, I think, being a key. It's not automatic. It's not owed. You have to earn it. And once you have it, you have a team that is worth leading, that you're a worthwhile leader of, and you can accomplish some good things.
There you go. I think we learned something.
All right. Well, thank you so much. All right.
You are
All
welcome.
right. I'll apply it to my children. We'll see how that goes.
All right. Good luck with that.
All right.